Hi class, today we are on Sex and Math Book 4, Lesson 94, and today we are going to talk about two-step word problems. So these tend to be tricky, and here's why. You have to perform two steps, which means there are two operations. Sometimes we're going to multiply and then add, or maybe we'll add and then subtract, or divide and then subtract. Whatever the operations are, word problems already tend to be tricky. So you guys are going to have to read them very carefully. During this video, you're going to have to listen very carefully to figure out exactly what the problem is asking for so that you know the two steps you have to do in order to solve it. So, example number 1. Jim is 5 years older than Allie. Allie is 2 years younger than Blanca. Blanca is 9 years old. How old is Jim? I'm going to read that again. This time I'm going to write down a little information for us. Jim, so we'll do J for Jim, is 5 years older than Allie, A for Allie. So Jim plus 5 for whatever Allie is. Allie is 2 years younger, so I'm going to say minus 2, than Blanca, B for Blanca. Blanca is 9 years old. We need to figure out how old is Jim. So here's the example of the two steps. I don't know how old Jim is compared to Blanca, whose age I know. I have Jim compared to Allie. So before I can figure out Jim's age, we have to figure out Allie's age. Now I know Blanca is 9 and Allie is 2 years younger. So how old is Allie? 2 years younger than 9 would be 7. And I know that Jim is 5 years older than Allie, so Jim must be, Allie's 7, Jim's 5 years older. Jim must be 12 years old. So there's our answer. But we had to subtract 2 first and then add 5 in order to figure out our final answer there. So that's a two-step equation. Our next question says Javon paid for 5 pounds of apples with a $10 bill. So he paid for 5 pounds with a $10 bill. His change was $6. What was the cost of each pound of apples? So he bought 5 pounds of apples, he paid for it with a $10 bill, and he got $6 back in change. So here our first step is to figure out what did those 5 pounds of apples cost. If he got $6 back from a $10 bill, we're going to do 10 minus 6, and 5 pounds of apples was $4. But we're not done there. We need to know how much each pound cost. So we're going to take our total amount of money, which is $4, divide it by our 5 pounds. Yikes, that doesn't look good. But remember, money, I can fill in some change there, and then I'll just put my decimal point. Does 5 go into 4? No. So we have $0. But does 5 go into 40? Yes. 8 times 5 is 40. Subtract, we get nothing. Bring down our 0, and we'll fill in another 0 up there. So each pound cost 80 cents. We had to subtract, then we had to divide. There's our two steps, and we figured out our answer, which is 80 cents per pound of apples. The next question. One of the foods that Maribella feeds her pet rabbit is 2 ounces of lettuce each day. In how many days does her rabbit eat a pound of lettuce? There's actually 2 questions. We're just going to answer the first one first. So she eats 2 ounces per day. How long will it take her to eat a pound? So the first thing you need to know here is how many ounces are in a pound? Who remembers that? 1 pound equals 16 ounces. So what are we going to do to figure out how many days? If she eats 2 ounces on Monday, 2 ounces on Tuesday, 2 ounces on Wednesday, and so on, how long will it take her to eat 16 ounces? We can divide. 16 divided by 2, that's a fact that we know. So it will take 8 days to eat a pound of lettuce. So here's the second question. How many pounds of lettuce does the rabbit eat in 4 months? So it takes 8 days to eat 1 pound. How many days are in 4 months? You're probably saying, Mrs. Duarte, some months have 31 days, some months have 30, 1 month has 28. How do I know? Anytime we have a month problem like that, we just go with 30 being the average. So in 4 months, we'll do 4 times 30 days. In 4 months, we're going to have 120 days. And we know that the rabbit will eat 1 pound every 8 days. So how can we figure out how many pounds it'll eat in a month? We're going to take, we're going to take our 120 days, divide it by 8 because it takes 8 days to eat 1 pound. 8, does 8 go into 1? No. Does 8 go into 12? Yes, 1 time. Subtract, bring down our 0. Does 8 go into 4? 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. No remainder. So it will take 15 pounds to be able to feed that rabbit for 4 months. All right, our next example has a number line here. And we start with 0. And it has a 100. And then a 200. And there is point A, a point B, and a point C. And it says point B represents which number on this number line. So what they want us to figure out is how many spaces are between each 100. Here we have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 spaces between each 100. So the first thing we need to do is figure out what or how many does each of these notches represent. Well, we can take 100 and divide by 5. And we know that the answer to that is 20. So now that was our first step to figure it out. Our second step, we can either count backwards from 200, because point B is just 1 notch away from 200 going backwards. Or we could start at 100 and count forward. Take your pick. Either way, you should figure out that B is, did you say 180? You would be correct. All right, our final problem looks like algebra. We're getting ready for high school here, folks. It says if y equals 2x plus 1, give yourselves a pat on the back. You are ready for this. This is what you're going to start seeing in high school a lot, but you can do it, especially because I'm going to give you more information. It says, what is y when x equals 3? So we know what x is. We're just going to plug it in there. And our first step is to say, well, what is 2 times 3? 2 times 3 is 6. And then our second step is to add this 1 here. 6 plus 1 is 7. So y is going to equal 7 when x is 3. That was your first, really algebra-looking problem. Awesome. All right, there's another part to that question. It says, what is y when x is 5? So they're changing it up on us. They want you, let me erase my work here. They want you to see this as a chart. We have an x value and a y value. If x is 3, y was 7. We could fill in a what is y if x is 4. We would do the same thing. We'd multiply first. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. And then our final question, what if x is 5? 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 1 is 11. Are you seeing a pattern here? I am. We have 3 and 7, 4 and 9, 5 and 11. Look here, 7, 9, 11. What if I said, what is y when x is 6? I notice the pattern, plus 2, plus 2. Oh, I can fill that in using my pattern, and then I can check my answer. 2 times 6 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. We were right. The pattern works. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the lesson practice is on page 598 of your textbook. I want you to try these problems on your own. If you are in my class, save these problems because we're going to talk about them when I see you in person. If you're not in my class, please make sure a homeschool parent checks your work. Make sure that you are able to figure this out on your own and answer these two-step problems. You guys are going to get tons of practice on this skill, just like all the others. Saxon's going to keep bringing it back to you in the written practice. So if you're not quite there yet, that's okay. We will continue practicing until you are confident and know how to do this on your own. Today's written practice also begins on page 598. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again soon.